The film set fell silent when the men in black suits arrived. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. It was 1992, and Jackie Chan was at the peak of his fame in Hong Kong. His movies were breaking box office records across Asia. Fans worshipped him. Directors begged to work with him. But there was one group of people who didn't care about his celebrity status, the Triads. And on this particular night, they had come to collect. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Jackie stood in the center of the abandoned warehouse they were using as a location shoot. Around him, crew members pressed themselves against walls, their eyes wide with fear. The lead Triad enforcer, a man with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw, stepped forward. His message was simple: pay protection money or the production stops permanently. But what happened next would become one of the most legendary and terrifying moments in Hong Kong cinema history. A moment that revealed just how far Jackie Chan was willing to go to protect his art, his crew, and his independence. Because on that night, Jackie Chan did something that nobody expected, something that could have killed. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the world Jackie Chan was operating in. Hong Kong in the 1980s and 90s wasn't just the glittering financial hub the world sees today. Behind the neon lights and skyscrapers, a different power structure controlled the streets and the film industry. The Triads weren't just gangsters. They were organized crime syndicates with roots going back centuries. In Hong Kong's entertainment industry, their influence was everywhere. They financed films, they controlled distribution, they protected studios, and when they wanted something, they got it. Jackie had grown up in this world. As a child actor at the Peking Opera School, he'd seen the brutality firsthand. He knew how the system worked. Pay the protection money, keep your head down, make your movies. That was the unwritten rule that kept Hong Kong cinema running. But Jackie had always been different. From his earliest days doing death-defying stunts without safety equipment, he'd proven he wasn't afraid of danger. He'd broken nearly every bone in his body for his art. He'd risked his life dozens of times on camera. So when the Triads came calling that night, expecting him to submit like everyone else, they had no idea who they were really dealing with. The enforcer's voice cut through the warehouse. "Mr. Chan, we're here to discuss your arrangements." Jackie knew what that meant. Every major production in Hong Kong paid the Triads. It was just part of the budget, like camera rental or catering. Refuse and your equipment would be vandalized. Your actors would be threatened. Your film would never see a theater screen. But something inside Jackie snapped that night. Maybe it was the years of watching good people intimidated into submission. Maybe it was seeing his crew members' terrified faces. Or maybe it was simply that Jackie Chan had reached a point where he'd rather die than be controlled by criminals. What nobody in that warehouse knew was that Jackie had come prepared, not with bodyguards or weapons in the traditional sense. No, Jackie's preparation was far more dangerous and far more insane. He reached into his jacket pocket slowly. The Triad enforcers tensed, hands moving toward their own concealed weapons. But what Jackie pulled out made everyone freeze. It was a grenade, a real one. The room exploded into chaos. Crew members scrambled for exits. The Triad enforcers stepped back, suddenly uncertain. Their usual tactics, intimidation, violence, threats, meant nothing when facing a man holding an active explosive device. Jackie's voice was calm, almost conversational. "Gentlemen, I have a proposal. If we're going to do this, let's do it together. This grenade will kill me, yes, but it will also kill all of you. So we all go up together or nobody goes up. Your choice." The scarred enforcer stared at him, trying to determine if Jackie was bluffing. But there was something in Jackie's eyes, a determination, a willingness to follow through, that made the gangster hesitate. You have to understand the psychology of this moment. The Triads relied on fear. They threatened people's lives, their families, their livelihoods, but their entire system depended on one fundamental assumption: that their victims wanted to live. that they could be controlled through the threat of death. Jackie had just removed that assumption from the equation. He was holding a grenade and openly stating he was willing to die. The Triad's entire power structure crumbled in the face of someone who simply didn't care about the consequences. But here's what makes this story even more incredible and more complex. Jackie wasn't just protecting himself, he was protecting his entire crew. The 50-plus people on that set who depended on him. The camera operators, the stunt team, the production assistants. If the Triads took control of his production, everyone would suffer. Everyone would be working under the shadow of organized crime. So Jackie stood there, grenade in hand, essentially playing the most dangerous game of chicken in Hong Kong cinema history. Minutes passed like hours. The warehouse was silent except for the distant sound of Hong Kong traffic outside. Jackie didn't move. His hand remained steady on the grenade. The pin was still in, but everyone knew he could pull it in a heartbeat. The Triad enforcer's mind was racing. This wasn't in the playbook. You threaten someone, they either pay or they run. You don't threaten someone and have them threaten to blow everyone up. What kind of madman does that? But Jackie wasn't a madman. He was a calculated risk-taker who had spent his entire career doing things that seemed insane to everyone else, hanging from helicopters, sliding down buildings, jumping from rooftop to rooftop. The difference was that this time he wasn't just risking his own life. He was betting everything, including the lives of his crew, that the Triads would blink first. One of Jackie's crew members later recalled, "We didn't know if we should run or stay. If we ran, would Jackie pull the pin? If we stayed, would the Triads shoot? It was the most terrifying moment of my life." But watching Jackie stand there, completely calm, completely focused, it was also the bravest thing I'd ever seen. The scarred enforcer spoke again, his voice lower, more careful. "Mr. Chan, let's be reasonable. You're a smart man. You know how things work in Hong Kong. Why make this difficult?" Jackie's response was simple. "Because someone has to." And there it was. The real reason behind Jackie's insane gambit. He wasn't just fighting for himself or his current production. He was fighting against a system that had controlled Hong Kong cinema for decades. He was making a statement, no more. Not on my set, not with my crew. But the question remained, would the Triads accept this challenge, or would they call his bluff? The enforcer looked at his men. They looked back at him. A silent communication passed between them. They were tough guys, experienced in violence and intimidation. But this situation was unprecedented. Their boss hadn't sent them to die in a warehouse explosion. He'd sent them to collect money. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the enforcer nodded. "Mr. Chan, perhaps we've had a misunderstanding. We'll revisit this conversation another time." The Triads backed toward the door, never taking their eyes off Jackie. And then they were gone. Jackie waited until their footsteps faded completely before carefully putting the grenade back in his pocket. His hand was shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up with him. His crew rushed forward, a mixture of relief and disbelief on their faces. "Boss, was that thing even real?" someone asked. Jackie just smiled. That mysterious, knowing smile that had made him famous. He never answered the question directly. And that ambiguity became part of the legend. What happened after that night is almost as fascinating as the standoff itself. The Triads didn't immediately return. Word spread through Hong Kong's underworld about Jackie Chan's grenade gambit. Some said he was crazy, others said he was brilliant, but everyone agreed on one thing: Jackie Chan was not to be messed with. But the story doesn't end there, because years later, when Hong Kong was preparing for its handover to China in 1997, the power dynamics began to shift. The Triad's influence started to wane. New security structures emerged, and Jackie Chan, who had literally been willing to die to maintain his independence, found himself in a strange position. He could finally make movies without fear of organized crime interference. But the price of that freedom had been enormous. The stress, the danger, The psychological toll of standing up to the triads, it had all taken its toll. In interviews years later, when Jackie would occasionally reference the grenade incident, he'd do so with a mixture of pride and regret. Pride that he'd stood up for what was right. Regret that it had come to that point at all. "I was young," he once said in a rare, candid moment. "I thought I was invincible. I thought I could fix the world by myself. Looking back, I realize I could have gotten everyone killed. My crew, the triads, myself. Was it brave or was it stupid? I still don't know." But here's what makes Jackie's story so compelling. It's not just about one man's courage. It's about the impossible choices people face when confronting systemic corruption. Do you submit and protect yourself, but lose your soul? Or do you resist and risk everything? Jackie chose resistance. And whether the grenade was real or not, whether he would have actually pulled the pin or not, the fact remains. He was willing to make the triads believe he would. And sometimes, belief is more powerful than reality. Today, Jackie Chan is a global icon. He's starred in Hollywood blockbusters. He's won Lifetime Achievement Awards. He's a cultural ambassador for China. But long before all that international fame, there was a night in a Hong Kong warehouse where he became something else entirely. A symbol of defiance. The younger generation of Hong Kong filmmakers doesn't face the same triad pressure their predecessors did. The industry has changed. Security has improved. International investment has diversified power structures. And while Jackie Chan isn't solely responsible for those changes, his willingness to stand up, literally with a grenade in his hand, became a turning point. Other actors and directors started refusing triad demands. Production companies began hiring legitimate security. The government, embarrassed by the international attention Hong Kong's organized crime problem was receiving, cracked down harder on triad activities in the entertainment sector. Was it all because of one man's desperate gambit? No. Social change is never that simple. But Jackie's grenade standoff became a symbol, a story that people told to inspire courage in the face of intimidation. One Hong Kong director who worked with Jackie in the late 1990s put it this way: "Jackie showed us that we didn't have to accept things as they were. That sometimes you have to be willing to risk everything to change the system." He could have paid the money. Everyone would have understood. But he didn't. And that made all the difference. But there's still one question that haunts everyone who knows this story. Was the grenade real? Jackie has never given a straight answer. In some interviews, he's implied it was. In others, he's suggested it might have been a prop. The ambiguity seems intentional, as if Jackie understands that the power of the story lies not in the physical reality of the explosive device, but in the psychological reality of his willingness to use it. Some of his crew members from that night claim they saw military markings on the grenade. Others insist it was too clean, too perfect to be real. The triads themselves never publicly commented on the incident, which is perhaps the most telling detail of all. If they knew for certain it was fake, wouldn't they have said something? Wouldn't they have returned with even more force to punish Jackie for the deception? Their silence suggests that they too weren't sure. And in that uncertainty lay Jackie's victory. There's a deeper truth here about courage and performance. Jackie Chan has spent his entire career blurring the line between real danger and theatrical danger. He does his own stunts, but there are still cameras rolling. He breaks bones, but it's for a movie. Is that real or performance? Maybe it's both. Maybe that's always been Jackie's genius. Understanding that the line between reality and performance is thinner than we think. The grenade standoff was the ultimate expression of this philosophy. Real or fake, the danger was real because everyone believed it was real. The courage was real because Jackie was genuinely risking his career, his relationships with the triads, and possibly his life. The stakes were real, even if the prop might not have been. So, what can we learn from Jackie Chan's grenade standoff? On the surface, it's a crazy story about a famous actor doing something reckless and dangerous. But look deeper, and you'll find lessons that apply far beyond Hong Kong cinema in the 1990s. First, there's the lesson about power structures. The Triads controlled Hong Kong cinema because everyone played by their rules. They had the power because everyone agreed to give them power. Jackie's act of defiance revealed that this power was more fragile than it appeared. One person refusing to play the game could disrupt the entire system. Second, there's the lesson about calculated risk. Jackie wasn't just being reckless. He'd thought about this. He'd prepared. He understood the psychology of his opponents. He knew that the Triads valued their own lives more than they valued collecting protection money from one production. His risk was calculated, even if it appeared insane. Third, there's the lesson about leadership. Jackie wasn't just protecting himself, he was protecting his crew. A true leader doesn't ask others to take risks they won't take themselves. Jackie demonstrated that he was willing to risk everything, not just for his art, but for the people who worked with him. And finally, there's the lesson about legacy. Jackie could have paid the money. His career would have continued. He'd still be famous. But he wouldn't have this story. He wouldn't have changed the industry. He wouldn't have inspired others to stand up. Sometimes the greatest achievements come from the moments when we're willing to risk everything for what we believe in. Years after the incident, a Hong Kong journalist managed to track down one of the Triad enforcers who was there that night. The man was older now, retired from the life, as he put it. He agreed to talk on the condition of anonymity. "I've seen a lot of brave men and a lot of stupid men," the former enforcer said. "Usually, they're not the same person, but Jackie Chan, he was both. That night, I genuinely couldn't tell if he was going to pull that pin. His eyes were completely serious. His hand was steady. He wasn't sweating. He wasn't shaking. He was calm. That's what scared us. Not the grenade, though that was scary enough, but the fact that he was so calm about it." The journalist pressed, "But was the grenade real?" The former enforcer smiled. "Does it matter? We believed it was real. Jackie believed it was real, or maybe he didn't believe it, but he made us believe that he believed it. I still don't know, and that's why we left. Because when you're facing someone and you can't figure out if they're bluffing or not, the smart move is to walk away. And maybe that's the real lesson of Jackie Chan's grenade standoff. Sometimes courage isn't about knowing you'll win. It's about being willing to lose everything and making your opponent believe you mean it. The warehouse where this happened has been torn down now. A shopping mall stands in its place. The Triad's influence over Hong Kong cinema has faded into history. Jackie Chan is now in his 70s, still making movies, still doing stunts that would terrify men half his age. But somewhere in Hong Kong, there are people who remember that night. Crew members who watched their boss face down the most dangerous criminals in the city with nothing but a grenade and his conviction. Triad members who learned that even the most powerful organizations can be challenged by one person who refuses to be afraid. And all of them know one truth that the rest of us can only wonder about. Was the grenade real? Or was Jackie Chan's greatest stunt performance not on camera, but in that warehouse, on that terrifying night when a movie star became a legend? The answer doesn't really matter anymore, because the story itself has become more powerful than the facts. It's become a reminder that sometimes changing the world requires being willing to risk everything, even if it means standing in a warehouse with a grenade, staring down the most dangerous men in Hong Kong and saying, "We all go up together, or nobody goes up." That's not just bravery, that's revolution. And that's Jackie Chan.